going on, everybody? This is your host, Sean Johnson, the creator of Benchminer Hockey, and welcome to episode number 7 of the Benchminer Hockey podcast series. This is the hockey podcast that covers single A hockey news as well as other stories from players and staff. And last week, we broke a story about a new professional hockey league coming to the state of Florida. And today, our guest is Mr. Nick Russo, who will be the commissioner. Nick, thank you so much for coming on.
Pleasure to be here.
Perfect. And so this all kind of started when I saw your simple Facebook post that blew up. You said, when you don't like the way things are run and done, you buy and start your own league. Hello, Florida. Now, before we really get into that, I know that you were previously with Motor City. Was your issue kind of with Motor City or with the FPHL when you said, I don't like the way things are run and done?
I'm really glad you started out with that. Motor City was fantastic and is fantastic. Obviously, COVID shut down Menor. The FPHL, I've been in there a while. I think just hockey in general I'm just fed up. I mean, I think that there is a better way to do things. I think there's, it gets stagnant when you get to those levels where people try to imitate other people. And the older club, which I'm one of because I'm an old guy, they don't think outside the box. And I think that was really, I was just kind of really fed up with the whole environment of, are we trying to be this? Are we trying to be that? But Sarge and Don with the FP have been great, and Motor City was great. I just, when I said that, I was just basically saying, I think it can be done better in those confines of a level.
Okay. And did anything like actually happen in Motor City that, I don't know, kind of change your perspective on the league, or you just kind of want to change the game a little bit, kind of like the Savannah Bananas of baseball?
You nailed it with the Savannah Bananas.
Okay.
No, Motor City. I mean, Nick Field and I were texting yesterday. He's the GM and one of the owners there. They've been doing really well. I hate to say it. The people in Detroit are fantastic. Okay. But my exit strategy was always to move south. I mean, I'm probably one of the only guys in the world that live on all four sides of Lake Erie, and I'm tired of it. So really, that was a motivating factor too. Huge motivating factor.
Yeah, we were just talking about that the other day. So right. So let's talk about Florida. So I know you said your goal was to move south. Why Florida?
Well, I've got a sister in Atlanta, and I traveled obviously quite a bit in my profession. My goal has always been, well, probably for the last 20 years, to retire to Naples, Florida. Property's real cheap right now because of the hurricane. So, but I'll take I'll work on the East Coast for now. But I'm 58, and my sons and my daughters, and are obviously adults. But the goal has always been to ideally have a cabin on a lake fishing in the summertime somewhere, and then really spend the majority of the time in Florida. I guess I'm a snowbird. I think that's what they call them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I really want to be someday too. I mean, now I live in North Carolina, so I don't really have to worry about it. But
Yeah,
when I was in New York, my first 30 years of life, I'm like, man, I would give anything just to be in the South for the winters and back up north in the summers.
Yeah, and that's really the motivation. I looked at the Sunshine League. I've looked at the geographics of the state. The population in USA Hockey there is growing huge. I think it's an ideal opportunity and an ideal time to do this. So that's really why Florida.
And in case you missed it last week, Mr. Nick Russo is starting his own league. It will include 6 teams, all in the state of Florida, called the South Atlantic Professional Hockey League. Now, how did that name come about?
We had toyed with a few names. The obviously, we had talked about Gulf Coast Hockey League. the thing of it is we didn't want to eliminate Georgia or Alabama, surrounding states. We're not into the, we haven't really looked into the Panhandle. Obviously Pensacola already has a team. Tallahassee has a facility, but I think that fit the model of, okay, we're going to stay geographically right here.
Right.
Could you even go into East Texas on the Gulf? Yeah, it's a reach. But the thing of it is we're trying to really limit the travel.
Right. Okay. So, I know we talked about this already, but you're going to have 6 teams to start out with, all in the state of Florida, but you're going to remain open minded, possibly expand if this is successful. Is this kind of just like the testing phase, year one?
Well, in any business, I've been involved in startups many, many times. Like you and I had
Hmm.
talked. I started Newman College. Ruston High School, which is one of the best public schools in the country. These programs. Everything in the beginning is a test phase. Anybody who tell you different is an idiot.
Right.
So yeah, we're testing. I test the water a little differently than everybody else. Everybody sticks their toe in there, and the pool's this temperature. Either jump in or don't. You figure it out. So we're gonna jump in.
No, I definitely like the mindset. I kind of just asked that because I'm getting a bunch of questions, on our Benchminer Facebook page, and they're like, "Oh, is this going to work?" You don't know unless you try. Are they going to expand too fast, like the FPHL, where they're going from Watertown to Biloxi? That's a hell of a road trip. So I'm just kind of
I have no interest in going outside of that geographic area,
okay.
and neither does my partners. Neither do my partners. Charlie Penn's with Delaware, the Thunder, is a very, very good friend of mine, and he's doing the Northeast. That I think it's called. He's trying NEHL.
Hmm. Yep.
Um, we would love to do some joint ventures. They have a very similar model. He wants to stay in the geographic area. As a matter of fact, he talked to me about Menor. That would be like the furthest away team, and Menor was interested. And I'm not going to give up on that with Charlie. We would love to. We'd love to support each other. I know that. So I think what happens is you look at the SB. Let's use that as an example. Is the SB really in the South anymore?
No, technically.
I mean, you got teams in, Danville, etc. And again, I think the goal here is to give kids an opportunity to play, finish their education, get educated, get a trade, whatever the case may be. But if you're playing in the Federal League SB, our leagues, Charlie's new league, my new league, you're really going to make a career out of that. So it's more about developing life skills, giving
Hmm.
the guys an opportunity to continue to play, but staying. I think the geographic models of both leagues are really good.
Right. Absolutely. I definitely agree with you there. And it's great that you guys are working together too, because I mean, you're covering a large area. So if there's kids that want to play up north, you have a contact for them. If there's kids that want to play down south, you're the contact. So
Yeah, and again, Charlie and I are very, very tight, and it might even be cool to do a showcase, an All Star
mhm.
game.
They've been saying for years that the Fed and the SP should, do an all-star game or do a head-to-head something, and nothing's ever come about it. So if someone else takes the reins and gives it a try, why not?
So you mentioned that. My question to you is, why hasn't that happened? And I know the answer. I think the answer is, well, we're different than them. We don't want to be them. We don't. They're our little brother. They're our big brother. Whatever the case may be. Hey, we all put our pants on the same way. Let's get along. Let's do it.
Hmm.
Let's better the game.
I mean, I've said the same thing for years, but no one's taking a chance here. So, I mean, I'm not going to point fingers, but is the SP saying like, oh, we're not going to waste our time? because they're rattled that maybe the FP can hang with them, or is the FP, saying, "Oh, we don't have the money to send that many kids to a location." I don't know what the issue is, but I would love to see it someday.
Yeah, I would too. And that's their problem. So the SB and the FB, the buildings in the FB Federal League were smaller. SB was larger. They have a larger budget. I mean, there was some issues there.
Hmm.
Now the teams in the SB, I'm sorry, the Federal League, they're playing in bigger buildings, Biloxi, Fraser, etc. Eventually there's not going to be much difference between the two leagues except for where the teams are located. The SB is not going to tap into the East Coast League. I mean, really. I mean, but the FB keeps getting bigger. The Federal League keeps getting bigger and bigger buildings and pay scale, etc. So it'll be interesting how they handle themselves over the next 5 years. But again, I've talked to Sarge with the Federal League. We're not here to compete with them. You know, we are going to get players geographically. We're going to get fans geographically. Smaller buildings. We're not looking to compete against. It would be great if our guys move up, but realistically, after they move to how many SB players move, Southern Pro players move to the East Coast League? How many Federal League players move? Hey, you're playing because you love the game and you want to collect a paycheck.
Yeah, absolutely. And getting back to your league quickly, so this is the third new league that's been announced in the last few months. The Western Professional Hockey League, the Northeast Hockey League. What makes your league different from the other two leagues? Because honestly, fans are starting to question the legitimacy of some of these leagues because they're like, "Oh, we see them pop up, but then we don't hear nothing about them."
Sure. I think the main, so whenever you're in sales, what differentiates you from everybody else? So if I'm trying to sell you, toilet paper, why is my toilet paper different than your toilet paper? So here's why my toilet paper is different. You look at the rise of the population in Florida. That's number one.
Hmm.
What does that population consist of? It consists of the snowbirds, like we were talking about, elderly population, okay, and mom and pop. The average price to go to a Panthers game or Lightning game for a ticket is $250. So it's a financial thing. I'm on a fixed income. I'm not, but I'm using that as say I'm on a fixed
Hmm.
income. If I want to take my wife to a game, we're in $500 already without parking, etc. Um,
Yep.
and most of that population has come from the north. So I mean, you said it yourself. You lived in upstate New York for 30 years. The goal is to go somewhere where your body doesn't hurt every day. The other thing is, yeah, I mean, it's so true.
I just got to
Um,
jump on it early. That's all.
yeah, yeah. The and the other group of people that people miss out on is, and this is growing again in Florida, is the population like yourself. You and your wife, young couple, have a kid, or one or two. If you have a wife and two kids and you want to go see a Tampa Bay game, or let's take it even a step low. Let's go all the way down. All right, you want to go see a Federal League game? It's gonna, tickets are $15, $20. Okay,
Hmm.
we want to go even lower than that because we can because we're cutting down the overnight stays. Budgets change. We can have a family of four
Hmm.
in the building for under $50. That's the goal. So, not to mention, do you, Sean, want to take the kids, uh, to Tampa, to Orlando, to Fort Myers, when you live in, Port Richey, and you can go to a game? It's 5 minutes away. Now, it's not as good, obviously, we're not talking you're going to see Ovechkin play, but I think the answer to the question is what differentiates us is you said it best, the Savannah Bananas. It's got to be sports is a microcosm of entertainment. That's it. It's plain and simple. Joe Pace said it best.
And if you don't know who the Savannah Bananas are, you have to look into them for those of you listening. If you've
It's
never seen the
crazy.
Savannah Bananas, and actually, I don't know if you saw this news, but they actually left their league to start the Banana Ball
Yep.
World Tour.
Yeah.
Did
Like
you
the
hear that?
Harlem Globetrotters.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that was the coolest thing. They got their foot in the door in baseball by joining a league. They're really successful in doing their own banana ball thing, and now they're going around the United States performing. So
Well,
I think that's so cool.
it is so cool. And that's what I've done. That's my research and development. That's a great model, right?
Hmm.
That's why I came up and you and I talked about having some showcases here and there.
Right.
And I've talked to some people about people don't know that there's a Mexican national team, and there's also I think one in Puerto Rico. Bring them in. Let's have some fun. I mean,
Right. Yeah. I did not know
yeah,
that. So that's news
yeah.
to me.
So and there's already talks to do that. I think with our league, we're going to try to do bring in some other countries that are unique countries. England has a pro league, which people
Hmm.
don't even hockey people don't think like that. But wouldn't it be cool to have a Manchester United
Hmm.
team, whatever they're called, come to Florida? Well, they don't want to come to Detroit, but they would definitely come to Florida.
Right. Random question. Do you have any investors currently interested in your league?
Yes. The,
Perfect. I'm not going to ask you for names. Can you give me a number?
right now, as a matter of fact, last night about 11 o'clock, I'm actually back in Philly from Detroit for the weekend. Um,
For game 3 of the World Series?
well, I'm here for that and the Eagles today. Can't wait. But I'm staying at a friend's house. My phone was blowing up about 11:30 last night while we were watching the Phillies game. He goes, "What's that?" And I said, "It's an investor." And he said, "Who calls at 11:30 at night on a Saturday night?" I said, "Dude, you're not used to the hockey world. I mean, he could be in Vancouver, he could be, whatever." So the answer to the question is yes. Right now, I have 6 firm investors committed,
Hmm.
and that entails ownership, arenas, etc. I have a solid partner, which is key. They understand. They either own junior teams already or they've been in pro sports. They understand the risk. Most pro sports, except for so move forward to, for example, the NHL.
Hmm.
All right. Buffalo as a city, population wise, is a very small market compared to the other cities in the NHL. They survive because of profit sharing. And that's one of the things that we're going to do. All right. When we do these showcases that you and I are talking about, we'll split that amongst the teams, whether they're in the tournament or not in the tournament or however it works. So it's the same thing in the NFL. I grew up in Buffalo. You grew up in Watertown. The Bills are a small market, but because of the NFL profit sharing, um, so these investors know that going in.
Okay. And again, I'm not, really looking for names per se, but I see Lauren Barr. Now, if you don't know Lauren Barr, she owns a couple junior teams. I see that she already made it public that she's going to own one of the teams in your league.
Well, I've talked to Lauren. Obviously, she's a smart businesswoman, so she's waiting on me for prospectus, you know, budgets, things like that. We're obviously going to be way under what a junior team costs. The difference is depending on your location. If you're not in the USHL or the NA, kids are paying $10,000 to play. each kid. Little different model, but I saw that the other day, and I would never mention Lauren's name, but she she basically came out and said it.
Right.
So
Yeah, no one came out and asked her. She came out and just was like, "Yeah, this is, in the
yeah,
works."
so I think she would be a huge asset. The original teams, um, the owners will sit on the board of directors with me, and I think she would be a huge asset to sit on the board and be part of the league. She's not new to the circus.
Okay.
She's been to the circus.
She actually reached out to me a few times and she's looking to place players. She'll ask me, advice for, what's this team like or what's ownership like over here. So I've talked to Lauren a few times. Great person. She knows what she's doing. So that would be awesome to have her be a part of your league.
Yeah, yeah, definitely
Um, and location. So these 6 cities that I'm about to list to the listeners, these are not set in stone yet. These are simply cities that you are
correct.
interested in, and you still have to work out details with arenas and leases and
Sure, right,
all of that. So we're looking at Orlando, Fort Myers, Jacksonville, West Palm Beach, Manatee County, and Space Coast.
correct. You know the geographic
And I
area.
know that
Yeah,
you want to have 6 teams in the league for year one. Now, let's say that one of these cities don't work out. Do you have a couple backup plans?
I do. So
Okay.
this whole project really started October. Well, we've been talking about it for a while, but I actually left Fraser October 1st, meaning I still live there, but my job was pretty much done there.
Okay.
Um, it started this project. So a month in, I actually had a meeting yesterday with a potential investor. First thing you do is you go through, okay, what is the model, 1,000 seats, you have standing room. So I went through the whole state of Florida, got a map out like you were when you were a kid, put the map on the wall and start putting pins in it. All right. So I've never
Mm-hmm.
lived in Florida. I've only been to um, the Hertz Arena. I don't know if it's still called that. Germain in Fort Myers. But again, you find out things like in Tallahassee.
Mm-hmm.
All right, they call it the Tuck. On Florida State's campus is actually a building. They play basketball on it, but it's also you're able to play hockey in there too. Who would think that? Okay, it's a 10,000 seat arena. It's out of our footprint a little bit. Okay, um, but things like the Panthers. I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to say it because I told you I'm honest.
Yeah, you don't beat around the bush.
They're moving from the where they practice now, their practice facility in Sunrise. There's a new facility opening up in Boca. I think it's called Boca Ice. It is called Boca Ice. If you Google it, it'll come up. It's not open yet, but that's where they're moving,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to have an arena that fits our model. So is that? I mean, is it Boca? Is it Miami? I mean, you're in the Miami area, so we're reaching out now to these arenas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Pine Ridge is another one. I'm sorry, Pine Brook. So I researched the whole state. I know every rink in Florida. Next week, I'm going to visit them all.
Perfect. Because I was actually going to ask you what type of research goes into choosing the perfect location.
Well, in this business, what I'm trying to do, number one thing is seating, capacity, and there's all kinds of ways around that. Minor league sports, all right, concessions, liquor, and geographics, as in, I did a study on the population of Florida. I didn't know, for example, that Jacksonville is the largest city in Florida.
I did not know that either.
And I was really surprised where like Miami fit. Now, when you look at Tampa, they separate Tampa from Sarasota, and I'm having an adult moment right across from Tampa. They're on the bay together, but they do them separately. It's not like
Mhm.
one geographic area. So yeah, but Jacksonville's the largest city in Florida,
I spent every summer there for a few years, and I had no idea.
and the population of these cities, which is ironic. I'm from Philly, Detroit. You know, all these cities are smaller than Cleveland. They're the size of Buffalo, the big ones. And you would, a couple hundred. You're talking a couple 100,000 people, as opposed to Philly is 3 million.
Exactly. Yep. Puts it in kind of retrospect. And I know that you told me that your headquarters is going to be located at Space Coast. Is that because that's where you're physically relocating?
No, that's
No.
because my partner is involved in the space industry,
Okay.
and he's really relocated there. He's also going to own one of the teams. The arena that he's been in negotiation with has offered to host the league. So, and it's a great geographic area. So, again, Orlando's right there. It's about 45 minutes away. The key there is airports for me. All right. You got two choices in Florida if you really want. I'm not a cheap
Hmm.
guy, but if I need to fly to Philly, Detroit, whatever, it's easy to fly out of either Fort Myers or Orlando or Miami.
Right.
So those are really your three choices if you're trying to save money on flights.
Just fly Spirit Air.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, we are running low on time, so let me knock out a few more questions
Sure.
here. Um, how many games will be played in the regular season and playoffs?
Okay, so there'll be 40 games home and home with the teams. All right. There'll be another 8 games played in showcases, 4 showcases. And then playoffs, with 6 teams, you're really looking at the first year, and that's going to change as if the league grows and when the league grows. Let's be positive. When the
Hmm.
league grows. Um, so the first year I see 4 teams, a first round and the second round. And I think the first round will be a 3 game series, and same with the championship.
Okay. You're saying like top four advance out of the six?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Just double checking. And what will transportation look like? I know you said, you don't have far to travel, 4 hours max. Are you still going to have buses, or are they going to be just like rental vans or?
Well, as a league commissioner,
Mhm.
if you guys want to drive your cars, that's up to you.
Right.
Some teams will want to take a charter. Some might take a school bus. I wouldn't. I would definitely do a charter, being in the
Hmm.
business for 40 something years. Um, or what's a great idea, and then you just prompted me with that question. Um, those party buses, the
Hmm.
bachelor buses.
Right.
If you're going 45 minutes, you got 20 something guys, all right, and then an equipment van behind you. I mean, that'll cut your expenses down
Yep.
quite a bit, and it takes the liability off of kids driving vans. How many drivers do you have? That's a great idea. Thank you for asking that question, because I mean, think about it.
I mean, I know it probably comes down to the owner's
It,
decision
it does.
essentially, but
It's down to
at
the
the same
owner.
time, it does reflect on the league.
Well, but in
I,
today's world, you got to look at, okay, you're finishing a game at 10 o'clock at night. We unfortunately, today's world in sports, we go back to humbled. Do you want a bus driving in the middle of the night, and there's all these rules and regulations to how far they can drive? Now that's out of the window because of the model of the league. But the
Mhm.
fact of the matter is, I know in Menor and Fraser, the insurances that you have to cover to have a bus are crazy. It's very expensive.
Mhm.
So same thing with renting vans. It could, the liability. The point of the matter is, I really like that idea, the party bus.
Well, good thing you're commissioner. You can make those decisions.
Yeah, but again, it's up to the owner, depending on their budget. That's something financially I wouldn't control. I can
Right.
advise.
Absolutely. Moving forward with a couple fan questions. When will the league have a website and other social media channels?
Well, we're in the process of that as we speak. Um,
Okay.
my goal, again, I'm still doing some research and development. My goal is to have everything up and running by January 1st. Um,
Okay.
and that's a conservative date. It could be much sooner, but the January 1st guideline, if you look at a league schedule, um, you want to get all the owners on board by then, all the rinks on board by then, the website up, the email, simple things, phones, email. Um, that gives me 2 months as of tomorrow, basically, or Tuesday. Um,
Right.
the reason why you pick January 1st is because if you go January, February, March, April, May, 5 months, that's physically the league with owners and teams getting up and running. And your league
Hmm.
schedule, sports are crazy because you go kind of by an academic schedule instead of January to December. So you get everything done, and the June 1st, the league itself will operate basically June 1st to May 31st. So that's normal. Think about a hockey season. All right, so June, July, August, you're getting your ducks in a row individually, not the league, but you
Hmm.
as an owner, players, free agent camp. Kids come to camp in October. You play your season. You finish up in April. April. You got May to wrap things up, and you're right back to June again.
Right. Absolutely. And players. What will be like the pay range for player compensation?
That's a great question. It won't be again. We will do the housing. We will do it's very similar to the federal league. Let's
Okay.
just put it that way. Um,
Perfect.
I need to determine. That's why it's really important that I get these owners in place because we need to determine a salary cap.
No, absolutely. Because I've actually had to. I'm not going to name drop, but I have had a few players that are interested in this league, but that's their first question. They're like, "What's the salary or what's the pay range?" Depending on what it is, I would definitely be interested. So,
So if I said to you, let's say you're a player, and I said to you, okay, whether it's per game, because if you do $75 per game, it's still $150 a weekend.
mhm.
Um, if you say I'm going to pay you $200 a week, you know, um, if I said to you, I'm going to cover all your expenses, your equipment, lodging, and pay you X number of dollars a week, but you get to play in Florida. As a young kid, to me, it's a no-brainer. It's like Arizona State going D1 in ice hockey. Everybody goes, "What are they doing?" I'm like, "What kid does not want to go play in Arizona?"
Right.
Especially if you're Canadian from if you're from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan,
Yeah,
you know.
that's the beach to them, right?
It's when I was at Newman in Philadelphia, every Canadian wanted to go there because I'd bring them down in the spring when all the girls were, wearing shorts and the sun was out and it was 80 degrees and they were like, "I'm coming." Take them to Jersey Shore.
Oh goodness. So, I mean, you're right. Living in Florida it shouldn't be that hard to recruit players down there, but
Well, and plus there's some really good hockey down there.
right,
You got Gulf Coast is a good club team. And let's be honest, I'm not, you're not getting the kids from Michigan, you know,
right,
or Ohio State or whatever.
right. And just for those listening, even like Benchminer, I run the Benchminer page, and I've gotten messages galore about this league, and I've already sent them to you, Nick, but we've already had players interested. We've already had coaches interested. There's a coach with 30 years of experience coaching ACHA, and again, I'm not going to name drop, but there's a goaltender in the SP that wants to coach in your league. There's been a production company that reached out to me. that wants to do things for your league. I guess I don't know if they want to film or
Yeah, my phone has been blowing up since you posted that, and it's like I said, hello, Florida.
no, absolutely. And I was going to tell you. I don't remember. I'll have to go back to my messages because I think I have a few more to send to you actually.
Perfect.
But we're pretty much out of time here. Is there anything else that you would like to say about your league to anyone listening?
I just want to say I love watching the posts. I love the best part about it is the ones that are like, it'll never make it. It's like the Sunshine League. And I just take that as everybody my whole life has always told me you can't do it. And after winning a couple national championships and multiple state championships and players in the NHL that I've coached, and yeah, I love when people say you can't do that.
Yeah, there was. I don't know. I like to be positive. Um,
Well, yeah, and I think even the negative ones were like, we would really like to see this happen, but it's not going to. And that's just people's human nature.
right. Well, this league didn't work out in the '80s and '90s. Well, good thing we're not in the '80s and '90s. But
Well, yeah, they didn't have the Panthers in Florida in the 80s either.
right. But I definitely wish you success. I'm going to keep tabs in this league. If there's anything you need me to push, I'll push it. Um, I'm not one of those negative people that are, we're going to be like, oh, this is never going to work. I hope it does work. I love pro hockey. So,
Yeah,
um, like I said, wish you the best. If there's anything I can do for you, let me know, and we'll definitely keep in touch. Get you back on the
appreciate that.
podcast here soon.
Appreciate it.
Of course. Well, thank you all for listening. If you are following the video podcast on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe to this video. If you are following on Apple Podcasts, be sure to give us a follow and tune in next week for next week's episode. Thank you, guys.